I'm Satyajit Mayor, the Dean of Research at the National Center for Biological Sciences. And today in the iBio magazine, I want to tell you a little bit about biological sciences in India and also about how the future of biological sciences in India today. When I remember getting back to work in India about 15 years ago, I was told India is impossible, and doing science in India was even more so. I must confess, India remains impossible, but it's exciting. It's the things happening all the time. But at the same time, I believe now that doing science in India is certainly not impossible. In fact, it's a very exciting time to be doing any kind of science in India today. Well, there's money. Investment in education is now becoming about 15% of the gross domestic product. Investment in science is growing to about 1.8%, at least that's the projected growth. And then for biological sciences, if one converts that into real money, it's about $12 billion over the next 5 years is the investment. That's 4 times the investment of the past 5 years. Well, one could ask, is this sustainable? In fact, it's not only sustainable, it's absolutely essential that this kind of investment takes place because of the demographics of India. In India today, there are about 250 million people below 15 years of age. And if it's going to be a country of the future, it needs to have an investment in the knowledge economy. It needs to have investment in education and science. So I don't think India has a choice except to put its money where its education and science activities are. Jobs, there are tremendous growth in the number of jobs for biological sciences. I mean, if one in fact just does a little bit of arithmetic, you can see that from the new institutes to the existing institutes, enhancing their capacities, there are about 600 jobs available today for the biological sciences. So if you're a researcher who's just finished your postdoc or wanting to explore new avenues, there are 600 jobs that are available for you to look at today. There are terrific fellowships for scientists who are coming back to work in India, and all of these are from the different agencies, from the Department of Science and Technology, that's the DST, and the Department of Biotechnology, that's the DBT. So there are really incredibly welcoming opportunities to even access this money that's being poured into science in terms of competitive fellowships. There's a huge spurt in international funding opportunities for biologists coming to work in India, the Human Frontier Science Program, the AXA Career Development Fellowships. In fact, the Howard Hughes has just recently introduced an early career fellowship for biologists coming to work in India. All this is, of course, competitive, and in fact, that should be the name of the game in terms of getting to work and doing science in India today. Of course, there are many, many challenges. Students need to be attracted to science. Here again, these challenges are being taken on, I think, mainly by institutional means, but individuals also need to contribute. There are scholarships from the government for about 1 million fellowships for students to join just science streams in colleges. 1 million fellowships for students in high schools to join science streams in colleges, and that's called the Inspire Fellowship. And then there are star colleges, there are DNA clubs, there are summer schools, there are teachers programs, all geared towards attracting students to doing science, and in particular biology. So there seems to be a buzz in terms of getting students to do science. A big challenge is actually building postdoctoral fellow culture, or rather a postdoctoral culture. And even here, there are interesting postdoctoral schemes from the government. There are Young Investigator Awards. There are the Wellcome Trust has entered the arena with the DBT, providing early career fellowships for postdocs. And institutes, for example, my own institute has a very attractive postdoctoral fellowship for people wanting to come and work in challenging areas in the labs of people working in our institutes. Well, research in universities is another major challenge, but this is something that has to be taken on because this is where the bulk of research is going to take place. And at the moment, few scattered institutes are doing major research in India, but unless the research expands into universities, it's going to remain a small activity in general. And in fact, there are major activities for restructuring university curriculum, for increasing research infrastructure and opportunities. So there's a whole host of things that are changing in universities, but the change is slow, but it needs to take place. And in fact, there's an iBio magazine about some of the changes that are taking place and the challenges ahead by Professor Subhash Lakhotia of the Banaras Hindu University, and which would be worth looking at. Information about all the activities, all the changes that are happening in the Indian science scene is hard to come by. But even here, initiatives, one such initiative like the India Bioscience, which is a kind of a web-based information site to knit the scientific community in India together. A program started by, in fact, by Ron Vale at UCSF to in fact try and bring the community of scientists in India to talk to each other, as well as provide information about the different research opportunities in India. So there are changes also in terms of the lack of information that one always hears about in the Indian science arena. Well, so as I just indicated, there are lots of jobs for research scientists, and there's money to boot. But I think the most important reason to work or to sort of engage in biological science in India today is the possibility of doing truly innovative science. I mean, there are literally no fetters on the nature of science and the activity that you take up. There's no demands except that you do cutting-edge fundamental research at a very, very high level. I mean, literally, the funding system is extremely open for people who have all kinds of ideas. In fact, even if you don't have ideas, it's open. In fact, and I think that's the real problem, because given the opportunities, it needs people who are engaging in doing research at the frontiers of all the fields that they can engage in. Another extremely exciting prospect of doing scientific research in India today is that you will be involved in shaping an emerging scientific ethos. You can change the nature of the institutions. You can engage in working at also building up an ethos of a current sort of exciting scientific that is needed for exciting scientific research. And just working in an institute today requires will be a major contribution, because your being involved in doing science in India will change the ethos of scientific culture there. There are also many other opportunities for science and its associated activities. There are many alternative careers in science, for example, science journalism, management, infrastructure and core facility management, scientific administration, and of course, if you're of a translational bent, there are some interesting opportunities which are again well supported financially by the government for various translational activities in engaging with the biotechnology industry in the country. So I think, I mean, the future of biological science in India, what they need, I think, is a really strong long-term vision in building excellent fundamental research. The strategies for that, I think, can be many, and they need to be put into place rather quickly because the money is available now. And I think it's also a clarion call to the international community to get involved because one can learn from the mistakes of others and also build upon what knowledge people have in other contexts. So it's all in all, I think the future is very bright if these attributes are met. There's a huge potential, which is what I wanted to leave you with, and also to say that it's biological sciences is alive and well. It's a small activity right now, but it's poised to grow at a rate that it will be determined by how many of us get involved in this work. And what I sincerely believe is that given the context in which one works, that often shapes the science that you do. So in India right now, there's a tremendous excitement about scientifically engaging with the incredible biodiversity that we have. Fundamental questions can be asked about biological sciences if we couple it to the existing biodiversity, which has been incredibly poorly explored. Every form of cell biology and the context. I mean, as a cell biologist, I find just simply being involved in some of the questions about the different biodiversity programs that have taken place in the country are just incredibly exciting. So I would like to just leave you all here by just saying that the future of biological sciences is in our hands to engage with, and it's alive and well if we do so. Thank you.